first of all, you need to know what equipment that you're going to take on a recreational paddle. First of all, you need a paddle. You only need 3 pieces of equipment: a paddle, a PFD, a personal flotation device. We do not call them life jackets because there's no guarantee this will save your life. Personal flotation device, and then obviously you need the kayak. Now there's some supplemental equipment that you could take as well if it's cold out. One is a pair of neoprene booties, which are really nice because you never know whenever you're going to fall out of the kayak or need to get out. You also have a paddling jacket that you can put on, and this is primarily to keep the wind off of you, not so much to keep you dry. And then finally, if you're one of those people that your hands get cold fairly easily or the water's cold, we have a pair of these neoprene gloves that you can wear. Again, even when they're wet, just like the booties, they'll still keep you warm. There's a number of parts that you need to be aware of. First of all, you've got the grab loop down here, and there's one at the other end of the boat too. This is a bow, the other end would be the stern. That's just to carry the boat with a partner. The other parts that you're going to have here are the hatch cover, which you can open up here and put your lunch in here, or you could even do an overnight trip with this. There's some straps up here to put things on. I'm not a big fan of putting a bunch of stuff on the deck of your boat, but you might need to put a little pump in here if you think you're going to get water in there, or a sponge is another nice thing to put up here. As we move back, you're going to see that this is called the cockpit area. There's a nice cushy seat in here. There's also these nice cushy thigh braces up here for your legs. And then down inside here where you can't see, there's actually foot pegs where your feet go. And for really tall people like me, I have to move the foot pegs way down. Okay, that was a joke. No, but you can adjust it to any size of person in there. There's a foot peg on either side. As we move back here, again, we have another hatch cover for gear, food, whatever you happen to want to put back there. And again, we use these kayaks for overnight trips. And this is the bow, and again, you can see the grab loop back here to help carry the boat. So now what we will do is talk about the anatomy, not only of the kayak, but the paddle as well. Let's start with the paddle. There's basically only a few parts to this recreational kayak paddle. One is you got the shaft, which is the black part here. On the shaft are these drip rings, so the water doesn't come down and get on your hands. And 2 is you also have the blade. Okay, the blade has 2 parts. This side over here is the power face. And do you know what this side is? Oh, it's a very high-tech name.
What?
It's called the non-power face, okay? So mainly in recreational kayaking, you're using power face to paddle forward, okay? The only other thing I'll mention about the paddle is the fact that it does break down. You can take it apart, so it's easier to transport in your vehicle. So now let's take a quick look at all the gear that you're going to need for a whitewater kayak. Compared to a recreational kayak, you're going to need twice as much gear. Start off with the paddle. Again, the paddle, then you're going to need the kayak itself, and then over here, you're going to need a spray skirt that you wear around your waist that will connect to the kayak so water can't get in, a personal flotation device, which we don't call it a life jacket, we call it a personal flotation device, because it's not guaranteed to save your life. You may go upside down in a whitewater kayak, so you need to have a helmet. And then here we have an extra PFD. And then also what you're going to need is you're going to need these float bags. And what happens with these is you stick them in the back of the kayak and you blow them up, and they're the rescue device for your kayak. In case you swim out of it and it starts floating down the river, these will keep it afloat so it doesn't sink to the bottom of the river. So you need 6 pieces of gear to go whitewater kayaking. As far as the anatomy of a whitewater kayak, first of all, as you can see, much smaller than a recreational kayak. This is the bow, this is the stern, front, back. Up here you have what's called a grab loop. Back there you have a grab loop. That's more to carry your boat with. But it also has another piece right here called the broach loop. And the broach loop is in case your kayak gets stuck on a rock out in the middle of the river or up against a log. You can actually come out, the rescue person can clip what's called a carabiner onto that, which is attached to a rope, take that to shore, and then you can pull it off. All right? In the middle of the kayak is where you sit. That's called the cockpit area. This is called the coaming, this piece, this ridge around the edge, and that's what your spray skirt connects to. That way the water doesn't get inside the kayak whenever you're paddling. So inside the kayak, there's some very important parts that you need to be aware of. fitting in your kayak is extremely important. You want to be kind of tight in there, but not super tight that when your feet go to sleep or you can't get back out of your kayak if you go upside down. So inside here, you have what's called the bulkhead. That's where you put your feet. You also have this pillar here. That's a safety device in case you get up against a rock and it squeezes you. Your legs don't get stuck in here. It gives it rigidity. Back here you have your thigh braces. Again, you want to fit in the kayak pretty tight. So you put your thighs up under here, and these adjustments here will actually move this part, which is the backrest, to the front, and that'll make it nice and tight inside your boat, along with your hip pads as well. So a lot of the things that happen inside the cockpit allow you to get fitted into your cockpit really well, and that's really important for whitewater kayaking. And then the fun part of the kayak is back here. This is a drain plug to drain your kayak whenever it has water in it. It's also the thing that your wonderful friends come up to behind you and unplug it and then push your back end into the water and your kayak starts filling with water. That's what your friends do to you. So be aware that it does have a drain plug in the back, and don't let your friends mess with you. All right, one of the pieces of equipment that you need for whitewater kayaking is a paddle, and there's just a couple of parts to the paddle. One, the shaft, this is the black part here, and then also the blade. In the blade, there's the power face over here, and then there's also the non-power face. In whitewater kayaking as compared to recreational kayaking, you actually do use both sides of the paddle in a variety of different situations. So remember what they are. The other thing about a whitewater kayak paddle, actually the side view, you can probably see it better. This is at 90 degrees, this is at 45 degrees. It's offset. You can do that with a rec kayak paddle, but these are typically made like this all the time, and we can talk about that in a video about paddling techniques. Thanks everybody for joining us for this video on kayaking. As you can see, we had a recreational kayak, we had a whitewater kayak. Some things are similar, some are different, but make sure you have the gear that you need to go kayaking, and in the future we will be showing some videos on paddling techniques.